Hey, hello everybody. What we will be doing now, apologies for the late start, is we'll go ahead and get started with um, our first session for today. So the first one is going to be a presentation called Amplifying Our Students' Voice of Undergraduate Field Courses, residential and non-residential, to address equality and diversity. We will be doing with this, if it is okay with the presenters, these sessions will be recorded. Any questions that you have can be put into the Q&A section. And get started. Yeah, so I see, Martina, you are here. So when you are ready,
Hello.
we can begin.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you very much. I'm sharing my presentation now. Can you share? Can you see it?
Yep, I can see it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so thank you very much for joining our presentation, which is about a project funded by NERC, the Natural Environmental Research Council. And this NERC call was just before the end of the year, and it was called Making Environmental Sciences Diverse, Equitable, and Inclusive. And our project in particular related to DEI in the context of undergraduate field courses. And our main objective is to amplify our students' voice, and you may wonder how, is by involving students at every step of the project while we focus on their lived experience. This presentation is not just from me, it's also from my co-PI, Dr. Joe Clarke, and our research assistant, Alison Young. And the project is born from a collaboration between Stirling University and the University of Glasgow. And before kicking in with our presentation, I would like to ask the audience, are field skills in environmental sciences degrees essential in your opinion? So if you go to this URL, either in your browser or you're using your phone, polev.com/martinaquag077, I can get a feel of what is your opinion. I give you 30 seconds or even less, as soon as you manage is best. Thank you. Okay, we have a neutral person that I think that is neutral. Okay, they are coming in, so some other people think that they strongly agree, and this is, oh, there's a lot of people voting, that's fantastic. Cool, phew. So that's good that the major part of the people here, 54%, 50% thinks that they strongly agree with this statement. So, and this is what we really think as well. And this is why we need to make sure that the field courses are accessible and inclusive for our diverse students community. And the main question that we are trying to address with these projects are simple, what are the barriers to DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, encountered by our students in field courses? Can we find solutions to address these challenges? And what approaches should we use for succeeding in these? And here there are the aims of our project. There are 4 aims, and the 4 aims, they feed into each other. In other words, each aim represents a step of the project, and the previous step feeds on the following one. So first of all, we wanted to identify the EI barriers and solution to field work and field courses. To do so, we distributed the questionnaires and we organized a focus group workshop. Then we wanted to use the outputs from questionnaires and workshop in order to co-design with the students, for the students, field courses to improve the EI. And we co-designed a residential field course at SIN, there's the Biological Field Station of University of Glasgow. And then but we needed to test this field course in the context of DEI and verify it. And so for that, we received feedback on CITUS, but also we distribute evaluation forms such as self-report participation of the students at different points during the field course, but also we produce ad hoc questionnaires, and we're still waiting for this. Finally, we wanted to disseminate our case study and general good practice for improving DEI. And to do so, we participate in conference like this one, but we will also organize workshops to support DEI policy. So the first two steps are done, and we are still waiting for the evaluation from the students about the field course. But for the purpose of this talk, I'm going to focus on the questionnaires and workshop that we ran last month. So for the questionnaires, we received 85 responses, with 55 from students and 30 from staff. Both students and staff are either studying environmental sciences or working environmental sciences, and the focus for these questionnaires was to identify the barriers. But we also asked for protected and identity characteristics in order to run some analysis about intersectionality. And then we run a workshop where 12 participants take part in them, and 9 students, 3 staff, and the focus of this workshop was to identify the solution to these barriers. We collected the data, and our research assistant is working hard in order to analyze them in a quantitative and qualitative way. I mentioned barrier, and maybe some of you would like to know what these barriers are. We identified 3 types of barriers. The first one are the structural barriers that are within the running of the higher education institution. And so they include timetabling, curriculum, and the environmental barriers instead that are related to the use of space. And these include the access to a building, for example, or a location. Attitudinal barriers, instead, they are typical about attitude, so behaviors from staff and students in the context of field courses. I want to give you an overview of the community of respondents that we obtained from the questionnaires. And so you can see in this graph is a bar plot. The y-axis identifies the percentage of respondents, and then in the x-axis different categories. And as you can see, both students in blue and staff in orange that responded to the questionnaires were women. If we look at the sexual orientation, we see some variability for both students and staff. The majority, however, are heterosexuals. According to their ethnic background, instead, it's quite striking to see that the staff in orange are identify themselves as white, either British or in another way. Instead, the students come from a diverse background. The take-home message from this is that although neither students nor staff samples are very diverse, the student samples is more diverse, highlighting a need for a greater representation and more diverse role models. And in the questionnaire, we also provide a statement that says barriers have discouraged you as a student, so have discouraged your students, if it was the questionnaire for staff, from participating in field courses. So now you will see 3 different graphs, one for each barriers, structural, environmental, and attitudinal. And again, on the y-axis, you find the percentage of respondents. On the x-axis, instead, you find the Likert a different level of agreement. And I would like you to focus on the right side of this graph, where respondents either answer slightly agree, or strongly agree to this statement. Again, in blue, students, and orange in staff. You can see that the majority of staff agree with this statement, and there is quite a big difference between the percentage between staff and students agreeing in this statement. And this is similar also for environmental barriers and attitudinal barriers. We think that staff sample believe that barriers can discourage students from participating in field course more than students do, because they have a more students community perspective rather than the students' individual experience. Finally, just to give you an idea of a different perspective from staff and students, we analyze very quickly, for the purpose of this talk, the open responses of the questionnaires. And what appears is that staff uses more frequently words such as skills, issues, assets, difficulties. Instead, the students, they have a different perspective. They talk about accessibility, experience, practical understanding. So just to give you a hint of the solution that we obtained through the workshop, I would like to give you an idea of a solution for structural barriers. So for example, students with the staff identify that maybe students with lower income backgrounds can prefer field courses that are closer to home rather than abroad, because they are cheaper. Talking about environmental barriers, for example, it came across quite strongly that the students would like being asked what are the needs before going into fieldwork, rather than staff assuming what are the needs. And eventually, about attitudinal barriers, I thought that this was very interesting. So the attitude that the staff can have around working students, so thinking that they prioritize their jobs rather than joining field courses. And again, this can be something that is related to income or financial issues. So the next step for this are that we are analyzing our data. Our coding is underway to collect data about the thematic analysis. And then we are still receiving the evaluation forms and feedback from the co-design residential field course with the students. And you can see a very nice photos of Stirling Uni students at the scene discussing different aspects of the planning of the field course. And what I wanted to leave you with is a couple of quotes from the students, and this is related to their perception of what is co-design, what they felt about the co-design and co-production. So a student say, the best part was being able to work together to make a tangible difference to future field courses. Another student said, I love the fact that my voice matters in the organization of the activity. And finally, my favorite one, another student said, I felt that working with lecturers without barriers and then taking on board the feedback was rewarding. It made me feel a sense of freedom. So I hope that I inspire you with these quotes, and I thank you for your attention, and I answer any question if we have time. I can see that you wanted a link on the chat. I'm really sorry. I should have thought about that. No, thank you. Thank you very much. We're still developing the final stages of this project, so I hope that to have the opportunity to discuss further our final outcomes with you. And of course, any collaboration is very welcome. You're welcome. Okay. I love the authentic approach of getting straight in there, not are the barriers, but what are the barriers? No, exactly, because there are a lot of barriers that we actually, as staff, I haven't thought about. And just having a dialogue with the students, you actually can understand even better their point of view and the sense of achievement that they get from this session of where there is a dialogue between staff and students is just get great satisfying for both sides, I think, and for a very good you know, EDI customized field courses in the future.
Just in case you haven't noticed, Martina, there's a question for you in the Q&A tab that says, why do you think staff perceive the barriers as higher than students?
Thank you, Catherine. I didn't notice that. I think that as I said, the staff have so the staff deals with a lot of students, right? And when they deal a lot of students, I guess that their experience is amplified because of being in contact with many students. And so I think this is why they perceive more barriers than the students, because not all the students maybe have they perceive these barriers. They just focus on their own experience, and so it's just one experience versus many experience. And if you think about that, these staff members, most of them they run more than 10 field courses in their career, so it must be a huge amount of experience. Anna asked, what tips might you give for someone wanting to co-design a field course? The tips from us is definitely having a session before running the field course where students get to know each other, because they really wanted to create a sense of community before going into the field. And as well, they immensely we're very grateful about a questionnaire that we sent 1 week beforehand, where we were asking what are their needs. The thing is that you need to give some example of what needs could be explained, because they don't understand how far they can go. So, for example, ask them if they want to share their pronouns with the staff and with the students, so then they get referred in the right way. Or for example, if they need breaks more than usual, because that has been quite a big thing that came out from working with the students. Different students want to different amount of breaks to feel energized for the next activity.
Excellent. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kimberly and Caitlin and everyone that is here.
Yeah.
If you tell me how to disappeared, so I can.
If you just turn your camera off and your microphone off, then that.
Okay, I will. Thank you so much. Have a great afternoon.